how do we as a culture and a community grow with perpetuity for the next generation or the generations to come without losing sight of like our core values, our principles, ethics.
Welcome back to the Beards and Business Show. As always, I'm your host, Anthony Pacheco. Today, I have Grant Quesada on with me. And after serving 8 years in the Army with the 2nd Ranger Battalion, he opened Founding Fathers, a multi-business endeavor in Prescott, Arizona. Grant is also serving in the National Guard and running for City Council. Welcome to the show, Grant.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me on, Anthony. I appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. So cool. We're going to jump right into it and let the audience know a little bit more about who Grant is. If you could just kind of take us back through as far back as you want to go through childhood or teenage years or whatever it is, just kind of let you know who your story is so people can know who you are.
Yeah, so I grew up from northern Arizona, Prescott. It's about an hour and a half north of Phoenix. My wife and I are both from here. Took off after high school, moved out to Missouri, got into cutting some hair. And then I joined the military at 23. I spent 8 years at 2nd Ranger Battalion up at Fort Lewis, Washington. And then got out in 2014. My wife and I moved back to Prescott. We have 3 kids. I started John Hancock Barbershop, so 1-chair barbershop, and grew that to 2 locations and 8 chairs and a staff of, at the time, about 11 or 12. After about 4 years of doubling revenue every year, I partnered with a childhood buddy of mine who was an Air Force veteran. And we purchased about a 14,000 square foot building in downtown. And then that took about a 2-year timeline to completely renovate and create what is now Founding Fathers Collective, which is 6 different businesses.
That's awesome. Hey, first of all, thank you so much for your service. What you guys do for us so that we can continue to live our lifestyles the way that America has portrayed it. We really do appreciate that. And I don't think that we say that enough.
Yeah, you bet, man. It's an honor, and definitely the active duty side was a lot more fun than the National Guard side. So National Guard is still a good gig, but flying around in little birds and all the other fun stuff can't really compare. So.
Absolutely. I've got many family members. I've got my grandfather was retired Air Force from a civilian side and from active duty side. And then my uncle retired from the Army as well. Got some good friends that retired from the Navy, one that's still in the Navy there in Virginia Beach. So appreciate everybody's service. So tell us a little bit more about childhood. Was growing up in Prescott, what was it like?
Well, back then it was maybe 20,000 people. Everything, it's the outdoors is very accessible up here. So within 10 minutes, pretty much anywhere in town, you can be out in the woods. So there's 5 lakes and a bunch of mountain ranges and obviously pine trees and high desert and the prairies. And so it's a great community to grow up as a kid, especially if you want to get out exploring and what I found, especially after joining the military, was I still am privileged to have probably a dozen or so friends that I've known since I was about 5 years old. So it's pretty unique in that aspect that I was able to grow up with, and very fortunate to grow up with several peers and friends that I still know to this day. And so that puts us at about 33 years of being good buddies. So.
Yeah, that's a very unique thing. Yeah, that's a very unique these days. Everybody kind of travels around and relocates. Me, myself, I grew up in the North Texas area and then transplanted out to Phoenix, Arizona, and then back up to Prescott. And so I love living here. And I'm starting to understand a little bit more about what you're talking about right there. I grew up in a town with 800 people. So everybody knew everybody. There wasn't anybody that got away with anything. Everybody. And kind of reminds me a lot of that. Yeah,
I think I consider it very just a blessing to be able to grow up like that. It kind of keeps you accountable for what you do and what you say you're going to do. And so it's small town living. Lived in some bigger cities, but I like small town life. So
that's awesome. So tell us, how'd you meet your wife?
Second grade here in town. So we grew up together second grade, and then we didn't start dating until after high school. Dated for about 2 years, broke up. She went to ASU. I moved out to Missouri, and then we kind of rekindled our relationship 3 years later when I joined the military. So got married right when I joined, and that was that. So she was there for 8 years and 6 deployments, and I think we were doing the math one time, and it was about I don't know, maybe 3 months average a year that we saw each other or less. So
wow. Well, bless her. She must be an amazing woman.
Yeah, she's awesome. So
awesome. You got 3 little ones, you said?
I do. So 2 boys and a girl, 9, 6, and 4. So okay. Life is busy.
Understatement of the year right there.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So let's kind of walk through your journey of the professional life. Where'd you kind of get your first job or start your business, or kind of take us through the journey as far back as you'd like to go?
Yeah, I think the first job was McDonald's at 15 in Walmart that was here in town. I just wanted to start working and making my own money, and then got in some trouble when I was 16 and a half here. And then I think after that, I did some masonry and painting in the area, and kind of started a little business that was selling car parts. So back when like the tuner craze was real big in the late 90s or the 2000s, I had that for about, I don't know, 6-7 months. Nothing came of it other than just some wheeling and dealing with buddies and having a business license, and then moved out to Missouri and got into cutting hair, and then did that for 3 years. Got bored, and I always wanted to do the military. And at that point, I had about 7 years on my, from the time I got in trouble at 16 to 24. And so that allowed me the opportunity to get into the military. So
what made you want to start cutting hair?
Total joke, man. I moved out to Missouri. I had a buddy of mine. I was living with him and his parents for about 3 weeks before I got a place on my own. And the first day I got out there, he had just turned 20, I think, and he opened up a birthday card, and there was $500 cash. And this was 2003 or something. And so I'm talking to him, and it was like, dude, who sent you $500 cash? And he's like, one of my parents' friends sends me and my brothers every year $500 each since we were kids. That's a lot of cash back then, or still to this day, especially if you're not
Sure.
related at all to these people. And so I asked him, like, well, what did he do? Or what does he do? And he's like, oh, he's a hairdresser in Baltimore. He owns a salon. And so I started looking into it, and I was like, okay, well, straight guy making lots of money around pretty girls. You're working indoors. I guess it should be cool, So I went to hair school, did that for about 3 years, worked at a salon in Springfield, Missouri. And then it was time for me to, that was enough. I was like, man, there's no way I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life. I need to go do something else. And I always wanted to do the military. And there was an opportunity where the Army, opened its doors to troubled youth as myself. And so I was able to get in at 23 and turn 24 in basic training. So.
Okay. Where'd you do your basic training at?
So Fort Benning, Georgia, home of the infantry and Ranger Regiment and everything else down there. So.
How humid is it there?
Dude, miserable. The Midwest Missouri was humid. Georgia is, dude, it's miserable. It is humid. I went through basic training kind of like August to December. I went through Ranger school. I was like a winter Ranger. So November through January, it was miserable and cold and snowed, especially in mountain phase. So, it was just humid, cold, miserable. So, you just learn how to suck at life real good.
So you get out of the military, then how do we get to where we are today? Kind of land the plane for us.
Yeah. So I got out. I did not want to kind of go the route where a lot of guys go, which is military contracting. It's very enticing. It pays very well. Kind of with my military background and resume, it was very easy to get out and move into a job where it would pay very good. And I just wanted to be home and present with my wife and kids. And so I know I could kind of fall back into cutting hair, but I didn't want to really do hairdressing anymore. So I got into barbering. So I went to barber school, started John Hancock Barbershop, and then, like I said, just kind of grew it from one chair to 2 locations and 8 chairs in 16 months. So grew up relatively quickly. Very much understood like the branding piece and the importance behind branding, and obviously providing a quality service, and really the focus and emphasis on consistency and an overall experience for the client or the customer. Normally I have a beard myself. I'm looking at yours and I'm envious, but every once in a while I have to shave it off for National Guard. So I look like I'm back in my mid-20s or something.
So tell us a little bit about Founding Fathers, because it really is an amazing establishment that you have there.
Yeah. So we opened Founding Fathers Collective about October of this last year. It took about 2.5 years to get here. The entire concept was really based off of the name of the barbershop was John Hancock Barbershop, and we really didn't want to make, I guess, a continued business model that was campy or kind of cheesy. And so we aimed at Founding Fathers Collective. And then we have a 65 wall self-serve tap wall here. So the largest in the state of Arizona. And then I think we're the 5th or 6th in the country. And that is named City Tavern, which is where the Declaration of Independence was written by our founding fathers. And then we have a coffee shop, Merchant Coffee, which is where it was read to the public for the first time. And then we have Liberty Mercantile, so a small like men's retail area. We have Founders Gym, which is like a functional fitness, CrossFit classes type gym. We have a Jiu-Jitsu Academy. That's a buddy of ours who owns that. And then we have which I'm sitting in right now, but a members only speakeasy. So the name of the speakeasy is 76, like 1776. And then how that works is through like an annual membership, gentlemen pay or ladies, and then they're able to gain access to the speakeasy throughout the year, and then get perks at some of the other concepts throughout the month. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I love how you're tying in all of the country's, foundations into the name. I think that's probably what stood out the most to me, just how respected that is in the community as well. Pretty conservative city, Prescott, which is awesome. But just you don't see that a whole lot these days, and it really stood out to me. It made a huge impact. I obviously go to you guys. You guys do a great job keeping me nice and fresh. But
right.
Yeah, so I've really enjoyed being up there and just all that it offers. And it seems like the community, it's become the place to go to, either for in the morning times for a little networking event or to grab a beer and sit down and hang out. I know that you guys have a little food truck that's outside too, so you can grab something to eat. And that, I don't think I've ever seen that barbershop where it's not just packed. It is just popping.
Yeah, we have, let's see, the new shop is 9 chairs, and we have a team of 11 or 12 now, and everything's by appointment. And so, I think we see we're open 12 hours a day, and we probably see, 100 to 130 guys a day. We stay very busy. We actually just won, ironically enough, we won one of the top 10 salons of the year in Salon Today magazine, which is like an international magazine. So that was pretty cool.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. So it's been a good last, and we're coming on 7 years. So it's been a run. Good, exhausting, but good. So
how much has your military background played into your business ownership?
I think everything, the ability to, a lot of grit and determination and teamwork, and just that intestinal fortitude not to quit. And that you have to work with people. As you hit a wall, you have to get real creative on how to problem solve and go around it or over it or through it. And so I credit myself and my business partner, Jesse, like I would say the two of us, our military service played a huge part in giving us the skill set and the tools, but a mindset as well to to get to where we're at now. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I know that our audience, especially our younger audience, is really going to love to hear that. Just understanding the grit and determination that it takes to run a business, much less multiple businesses in the same location. But yeah, we really appreciate that. So we're going to kind of get into a little fun part of the segment. It's we talk a little bit more about our beards. And so tell me a little bit. I know that you had to shave it for the National Guard. That's a must in the military, right? It's just, clean shaven daily.
Yeah, yes, definitely in the National Guard. There was some times on active duty where you could have a beard, which is great, but by and large, yeah, you pretty much are shaved, especially when you're back in National Guard lands.
So when did you start growing your beard originally?
I think when I got out, my beard grows pretty quick, so I can have like a full size beard in about 2-3 weeks, and within a month, I mean, it's thick. It's like 3/4 inch thick, full face. So.
And so when you never had facial hair before you went to the military?
Not really. Like maybe the stupid, trendy kind of goatee thing back in the early 2000s or something, to where whatever was kind of trendy back then. I don't think the beards really came into fashion, or I credit a lot of it with the military. You start seeing when beards started becoming popular in pop culture, and I think a lot of it came from the photos you would see of a lot of the special operations guys overseas, or the guys with the guns and the big beards, and that trickled into pop culture probably a decade ago or 12 years ago or so. So you start following the trends. Yeah. But if you start following the trends on kind of like, pop culture and the hipster culture and kind of men's appearances and grooming standards, and it was like a mix between, nice clean cut hair on the top and like more of the masculine beard that you see nowadays. It's rocked pretty regularly within culture these days. So.
Yeah, that's interesting that you bring that up, because we always try to figure out, like, where did you first start seeing it? Where did you start seeing it? And you're right, like a lot of these movies or anything that would come back from, portraying law enforcement or undercover or military. Yeah, that's really interesting how it kind of just trickled in.
Yep. So
and obviously it helped the business grow, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. I think in 2014 when we opened up, it was very kind of, beards were probably just getting accepted in pop culture, maybe by a year or two at that point. And of course you're talking on the coast, everything trends and then it kind of moves inward. And so,
sure.
I'd seen it for years kind of up in the Northwest, but it was getting more and more of a trend, as you move more inland into the country. So I think it's still a trend. I feel like it'll be around for quite a long time. And I think in most of our culture, historically, men have always kind of had some type of facial hair or well-groomed beards and mustaches, like your great mustache. So it's cool to see kind of the swing back into, I guess, what's been a norm for probably centuries, thousands of years,
Sure. Absolutely. No, I'm really enjoying to see kind of that masculine feature come back, and, you got to take care of it, right? You can't walk around without taking care of it. But, when it's groomed really well, I always enjoy seeing a man in a business suit with like this masculine looking beard. You're like, yes, that's awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. Absolutely. Very cool. Well, tell us a little bit about what you have going on right now. Like what's going on in Grant's world?
Yeah. So I'm running for a city council seat here in Prescott. There's about 3 spots open and 6 of us running. And I think in the last 7 years of doing business and just speaking with and engaging with a lot of the local community at all levels, business owners, kids, you name it. local politicians, but you start seeing kind of what is important to the area, and how do we continue to grow without losing sight of who we really are as a community. So Prescott as a whole sits about 46,000 people right now, and a huge part of that is on the docket right now, of course, is growth and water, and those are all good concerns. But how do we as a culture and a community grow with perpetuity for the next generation or the generations to come without losing sight of like our core values, our principles, ethics, morals? We have a really unique community here. And so my biggest concern or the biggest reason for running is how do we maintain that and hand it over to the next generation and really invite people into taking ownership of that story,
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so I came from a city called McKinney, Texas. And when I moved to McKinney, Texas, there were about 50,000 people there. Mm-hmm. Today, I think they're sitting around 280,000 people, and it's been about 10 years, right? And it might be even higher than that. Frisco and McKinney, Texas, were the two fastest growing cities in America for like 5 years straight. And McKinney was the number 2 place to live in America for 3 years running straight. And so I actually fully understand exactly what you're speaking about with keeping that culture. McKinney's slogan was unique by nature. And it was very interesting because that's what I see Prescott is the same. It's that uniqueness to the area. The diversity that Prescott has with plains and mountains and, the valleys. I mean, it's got a little bit of everything, very diverse land. Yeah. And on top of that, it's got a very diverse people. So you've got everything from outside activities to country living to city living and businesses, commerce as well. There's not a ton of manufacturing or here, but there is still a small community of businesses, and it seems to be drawing a lot more of the technology companies as well. And so I really love that everybody seems to be pretty concerned with how we grow. The culture, I think, is the one piece that you spoke to that I really loved what you said. Keeping the culture and maintaining that is very difficult to do in explosive growth rates, but you can do it, right? Because a lot of times you can't keep people from moving in, right? But you can still create that culture as they move into that they absorb your culture and you don't conform to theirs. And so I think that is very well said from you, sir.
Thanks. Yeah, I think that's been that's probably been the biggest thing I've noticed is we live in a very desirable place. People move here, they want to live here. I don't think they come in with any malicious intention to change, but if this is all they know, whether they come from California or the Midwest or wherever they're moving from, that's what they view their entire lens through when it comes to community and culture. And so they move here, and without somebody taking time to kind of set a standard or a bar and like, hey, this is the norm, now you're here, they just move here and they kind of think they know they don't want to be where they're at, but they really don't understand, I think, how ingrained their location or mindset is when they move here, so you're going to have to help them get out of that, or allow them to slow down or really help process. And a lot of that just comes down to talking and educating them a little bit. And hopefully once they're here, they start realizing like, okay, this is actually why I'm here. There's a purpose and a reason for it. It's not just I'm escaping, but I don't really, if they have all the telltale signs of where they're leaving from to get here, but then when they get here, it's really trying to get them to slow down and process why,
Absolutely. So, and it probably made it a little bit harder even with COVID, because it's been growing even at a faster rate since COVID really started. And so as we kind of look at that, the more that you're indoors and away from the culture, you don't really get to absorb it. That was one of the things that we learned moving up here. We moved up here July of last year. So we've been here just a little over a year. And one of the hardest pieces were to be able to break into the community because nobody really went anywhere. luckily, Prescott's done a great job of maintaining and taking care of everything, and the city's been open and nobody really, completely shut down type situation, but people have been out, and so we got to enjoy the community, and we're starting to get even more involved with our school board and at the city council meetings, and just kind of showing up and being present and feeling the culture and really getting to know who the culture is first. It was one of the hardest things when we moved from Texas. Southern hospitality rules in Texas, and well, it used to. And so when we moved to Arizona, it was a very, like you said, that's what we thought everything was like. And then we moved to Arizona and we're like, wow, it's really not like that everywhere. And then we moved up to Prescott. We came up to Prescott all the time. We were always up here downtown hanging out and stuff during the weekends. And what we realized was, man, this is a lot more like Texas here. It makes it feel that country living, that small town living. So I would love to see, and I'm hoping that this will happen. I see Founding Fathers as kind of that place where people can go. Every time I've been in there, everybody's been extremely friendly. Everything from the staff to the people that are just patrons of the location. People are just happy to be there. They're, just enjoyable to be around. And so I would love to see that. I would love to also see a community center where people could go when they did move here. It's like, you know what? You need to stop by Founding Fathers Collective. You need to stop by the Chamber of Commerce. You need to stop by, and then 2 or 3 other places to kind of feel the culture of the community. I think that would be really helpful for new residents.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. That so our core values are community, connection, and care, and so everything we do, those are kind of our guiding principles. And so, what are we doing that has intentionality behind it, and how are we serving the community best, or bringing people in, introducing people, trying to provide an atmosphere where people feel welcomed and invited. And so, I completely agree with you. And part of that, though, too, comes with the people that have been here in Prescott, call it home. The ownership is on them as well to do a good job at actually reaching out, extending a hand, and welcoming people that move here. We've done a good job in the past of kind of castigating people or putting them aside, or putting up the walls. And at some point, you have a tipping point of enough newer people that move to an area to where they no longer desire to be part of the culture, and then they end up creating countercultures. And and ideally, that doesn't happen, but the goal really is, as a local community, as a culture, we have to meet those people where they're at, explain kind of what we're about, and welcome them in to our area without, like I said, castigating them or making them feel unwanted. Because then what we've seen the last year with the growth we've had, which really on that note isn't anything extraordinary. We off the US Census and the world census in Arizona, I think we've grown 2.45 this last year. Like this year alone, last year was 2.32, and the busiest year ever was 2.65, the year 2000. So, those some good growth years, but it equates to pretty much 500. Yeah. So our average in 21 years is 0.66% growth, which averages about 582 people a year. So it's not too bad. But point is as more people move here, if they don't feel welcome, and you have a clump of people moving relatively close, whether it's proximity or timeline wise, they're going to start relating to each other, and then they're going to start feeling like they don't have to be a part of the community or the culture. They're going to just create their own identity, and that's where it gets a little. I think that's where you tend to lose the heart and soul of the actual community. For instance, the location came from Texas. How has it fared over the course last 10 years, going from 50,000 to 280,000? I'm sure there was definitely sacrifices to the overall, just the core and the heart of that community, right? So
yeah, it was the Chamber of Commerce worked really well with the city council, and they created some extremely useful programs to help people as they were integrating in. And the other unique thing that they did was they set up communities. So each kind of residential community was its own community inside of itself. So you had a Stonebridge community, an Adriatica community, the El Dorado community, and each one of them kind of felt like their own little town inside of a large city. And that helped as well to kind of draw people into their community, and then they are part of the bigger collective.
That's cool. Yeah. And that's what we need to do here. You know, we need to be more proactive as a community. If we don't, obviously what will end up happening in probably 5 to 10 years is we've grown to a point where nobody actually knows their neighbor. We don't have the really fun, inviting city feel that we're known for throughout the country or throughout the state. And so I mean, it's a big deal, man, but it's a worthy cause to try to find a solution and share that with others. So
absolutely. Well, hey, Grant, I know you're super busy. I'm going to let you get back to your day. I know you got about 1,000 things to get done.
Dude, I got a radio show after this, and I got to get my 2 boys are here, so I have to get them ready for jiu-jitsu, and then I have to jam over to the radio show. And yeah, it's busy.
So, absolutely. So tell us where we can find you at, and anything else you'd like to say.
Yeah, so you can find more about us at foundingfatherscollective.com. Our location is 218 North Granite Street, Prescott, Arizona. Right, we're about a block and a half northwest of the square. Our phone number is 928-541-1556.
What about for city council? Anything
city
for
council?
For
yeah,
specific?
City council is grantforprescott.com. So thanks for bringing that up.
Cool. Yep. So you can go on there and sign up or do whatever to get updates about what's going on. I think the election's coming up here pretty soon, right?
It is. Cutoff is August 3rd. And so that's the early ballots, and that's the primary for city council. And then I think statistically it's going to be pretty hard to see anybody actually win a seat there. It'll probably all go to general. The 6 of us that are here, I think maybe it's like whoever is the least voted on might get edged out, and then the 5 go to the general election members. So we'll see. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, hey, Grant, we really appreciate you being on. You have a great day.
Hey, thanks, Anthony. You too, buddy.
As we end today's episode, I wanted to show my gratitude to all our listeners for your support and reviews. You took the extra 30 to 90 seconds of your day to show love and why this is worthwhile to watch. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.